Alright, welcome back to part 2 of my encounter series. I know most Bigfoot channels tell other people's stories, but my channel will be based on all my personal experiences. I need a place to help me discover new ways of researching the topic and find like-minded people. I don't want to give people the wrong idea and make them think that I just want to gain YouTube subscribers like some other channels out there. My goal is to document data and collaborate with people across the globe trying to do the same things as me out in the field. I would really like to find more people in my area that have had the same experiences. If you have had any Bigfoot encounters here in Missouri, you can email me at SASQUATCHtheory@outlook.com. I would really like to hear what people have to say, and if you don't have time to email, you can just leave a comment down below. Alright, with all that being said, let's get into our next encounters. My next encounter is about a year later from the Meramec scream incident. This happened, I believe, in the summertime. I was living in a place outside of town with my girlfriend at the time. I had brought in my Siberian Husky and bagged up the trash to take it out. It was already dark outside as I had just gotten home from work a while ago. I was standing on the back deck facing the wood line. I decided to do a whoop. I don't know why I did. It is something I began doing after the river scream incident. My girlfriend opened the sliding glass door and came outside to see what I was doing. We were having a normal conversation in the backyard when all of a sudden something began to crash through the woods. It was coming our way super fast. It honestly sounded like a bulldozer crashing through the woods just without the sound of the bulldozer. You could hear trees and limbs being smashed as it made its way to us. It seemed to have stopped right at the edge of the wood line. Whatever it was decided we were not what it thought we were and turned around and walked off. At this point, I know I am having Bigfoot encounters, but it is not seeming to register in my brain that this is the reality of it. I guess what I am saying is I am shrugging all of this off and pretty much telling myself that can't be what it is. I know this could be anything in some people's opinion, but what else in the forest would react to a wood knock or a whoop in this manner? I know it seems like I have a lot of encounters and interactions, which I do, but who else is trying these things when they go out to the forest? Maybe I get lucky, or maybe I have some type of connection. I see others going out searching for these creatures and to no avail. I think that's almost everyone, so I can't really say you have to get off the couch for this one. My next encounter is an ice sighting along the Meramec River. I had began working a new job as I lost the job I had for the past 8 years. My life was going south at this point. My girlfriend and I had split up and were living separately. We had a really strong connection and bond and shared many interests in the paranormal and the outdoors. I really felt lost and disconnected. I'm sure everybody knows the feeling of moving on and pushing forward. There are many other things that were going wrong, but I'm not going to mention them here. It just seems like everything went wrong all at the same time. This story begins at the meat processing plant I started working at. My boss and I were talking about the white-tailed bucks he had mounted on his wall. He began to tell me where his son harvested a nice buck on some secluded public land. I asked him about this public land area as I was very curious on the subject. I have never hunted public land before, and I had just gotten into bow hunting a few years before this. My boss explained to me exactly how to get there. I honestly had no idea where he was talking about, and every time he asked me, "You know where this is?" I would just reply, "Yep, yes, and yeah." I had no idea where public land was, and I really wanted to know everything I could about it. So I asked him, "Could you write down the highway and road name?" All I could really remember was it was close to the Meramec River. There would be a sharp 90-degree turn right before the road I am supposed to turn on. I left work that day with the directions on a ripped up scribbled piece of paper. Honestly, that was all I needed to have a good time. I knew how to get halfway there, so if I can just find the road, I will be able to find this piece of public land. I remembered him saying there is a 90-degree turn right before the turnoff. I had already drove miles out of town. I began to see a sharp turn with a road sign to the left. I slowed down, and it was the road he described to me. I was excited and cruising down a gravel road in the middle of nowhere. I am almost getting to the spot that he was talking about, and a bunch of turkey ran in front of my car. I thought, oh wow, this is going to be amazing. My boss told me, if you don't see 50 deer in one day, something's wrong. I know that sounds like a large number, but there is a conservation area close by that does not allow hunting. When you drive on the highway, you will see deer after deer, so I knew he wasn't exaggerating. I forgot to mention this is September 14th, 2018. I remember the date because it was the day before opening bow season. I finally reached the end of this long gravel road that dead ends at a parking lot in the middle of nowhere. On one side of the parking lot is private land, and on the other side is a huge cliff and the Meramec River. I get out and look off the cliff across the river. You could see a very, very long ways from this spot. I remember him saying it was hard to get into this hunting area, but I had no idea this cliff was so steep. I thought, man, this guy is nuts to walk down this cliff with a bow and cross the river. I turned around and walked back towards my car when I saw something jet black on all fours move through the green oak brush. Whatever it was on the private land side. I wasn't sure if I was looking at a small group of turkeys moving through the brush. I quickly dismissed that idea as I could see black fur. My next thought was, is this a wild hog or a black bear? It seemed to move like a primate on all fours or like a kangaroo. If a kangaroo could use all fours, it was just a very strange movement for this neck of the woods. Finally, whatever this was got to a larger oak tree at about 30 yards away from my vehicle. It made no sound as it moved through the brush and oak leaves. When it got to the oak tree, it stood up, and all I could see was a jet black furry arm and body move behind the large oak. When I mean move slow, I mean it moved as if it were in slow motion. I could see black fingers. The arm was very long. It had a very long forearm. The forearm honestly reminded me of Mega Man's arm, but only black and hairy. The forearm had a shape of a large wiffle ball bat in a way. The hair was not matted, but was layered like a Christmas tree, if that makes any sense to anyone. I can't think of the right description, but the hair was only a few inches long and was layered in a certain way, I guess is what I am trying to say. Whatever it was had a nice clean jet black coat. The individual I saw was not extremely huge. The creature was bigger than me, and I am 5'11" and weigh 185 pounds, so I suspect this Sasquatch was like a teenage Bigfoot. I am staring at this oak tree, still thinking it's a bear or a hog. I honestly think I shrugged it off again as it was happening and continued doing what I was doing. I regret that action to this day, but I was committed to deer hunting. I made my way down the steep cliff on the opposite side of where I had the encounter. It was very wild indeed. I saw at least 3 snakes and a hornet's nest on the way down. I crossed a large slough and finally crossed the river. I began to see many large buck tracks and trails going everywhere. I walked a few feet from the bank and jumped 3 large deer. I thought to myself, this place is going to be money. I wake up at 4:30 a.m. the next morning, drive all the way back to this spot to find a good tree to hunt from across the Meramec River. When I get to the parking lot where I had my sighting, I sat there and got a very strange feeling. I got the feeling of don't go in there, it could be dangerous. I never had that feeling in my life. I sat in my car for 30 minutes and watched the reddish-orange sun start to rise. I started my car, backed up, and turned around and left. I still to this day have not returned back to this area to bow hunt. Alright, that's all we have today for my encounter stories. I hope you guys have enjoyed my experiences and follow along for more encounters.